It was the game week of nightmares and my worst game week of the season so far, and well, international break isn't proving to be very kind either. Hi guys, I'm Nymfria and welcome back to the home of FPL videos. If you're an owner of a template team like me or the infamous Threemium setup, then Game Week 7 was not a kind game week to any of us. Let's take a quick look at how I got on in that game week and then take a look ahead to my team selection for Game Week 8 with whatever players I still have left after international break, which at the moment doesn't seem very many at all. Sanchez was back to his 6 points again. He has now either had 2 points or 6 points in 6 of his last 7 games, only veering outside of that once with 1 point against Leicester. Pretty consistent if you ask me, if not always not the best kind. Didn't really help me as many had Brighton or Arsenal defence, but it adds to my overall points, which is always a plus. Moving on to my defence, and talking of consistent, 3 little ducks in a row. My newcomer Rudiger came in for Ayling and didn't really live up to the defensive hype. It was all about Azpilicueta in Game Week 7 really. Because I sold Ayling and got a Chelsea defender, I took a punt on playing Shaw as to not have 2 defenders in the same game by playing Livramento. Wrong call on my behalf. Shaw was terrible yet again. I cannot wait to sell him, and Semedo decided he wasn't going to be left out in the 2 points club to round up to my hat trick of defensive 2-pointers. Bad times. In midfield, I'm not sure where to start, to be honest. It's a shambles from start to finish. Rafinha started but could only get a clean sheet despite 5 shots, 2 in the box and 1 attempted assist. Promises so much each week. Hopefully he's back for Game Week 8. Even though those promises aren't paying off, there's still promises, so I really would like him to be back after the international break. Salah was my only shining light in midfield this week. I did fancy him to do well. I remember mentioning it on both my stream and with my 5 things FPL with Fergie. Shame I wasn't brave enough to follow my own convictions on that one and captain him, as he smashed it out of the park with a goal and an assist for 13 points. Jota, I mean, this guy, I despair. Well, he started. I did think that he might actually start when so many said that he wouldn't, but despite looking lively again, only had 1 shot in the box and 1 on target for 3 points. There are plenty doing much better for much less than him at the moment, which is always quite worrying. Greenwood also looked good but didn't deliver. 2 shots in the box and 2 on target but couldn't get any return again. The only thing he returned was a yellow card for 1 point towards my team total. Cheers Mason, that seems to be going really well at the moment, doesn't it? Benrahma, like Jota, has been a bit few and far between with returns. Every week, all 3 of these players look like hauling. Benny having 5 shots, 2 shots on target and 1 in the box. But they just don't seem to be delivering for me, which is really frustrating because the team on paper looks fantastic, but they're just not getting me the points that I need. Up top, it doesn't get much better, to be honest. Antonio blanked. In fact, he looked poor by his standards. His only plus was his 4 attempted assists. They don't count for anything, unfortunately, because none of them actually got converted. And my new transferred in forward, Lukaku, who came in for Ronaldo, was awarded my captaincy status from the off and was a big letdown, matching Antonio with only 2 shots in the box and no returns. It was an absolute shiitake show in Game Week 7, guys. Honestly, my worst game week of the season so far. Not great. And with all of that, I got just 39 points and my 2nd red arrow of the season, a fairly sizable one at that, and I'm now sat around 250,795k. However, I'm trying to keep some positivity here and just looking at this as a whole picture. It was a bad game week for a lot of people, and if I had just played Livramento and captained Salah, I would actually have been on a green arrow. Such fine margins this season. The 2 game weeks where I've actually done really poorly has not been necessarily because of the whole of my team. It's been because of 1 or 2 subtle mistakes, like not playing the right player or not captaining the right player. I guess I can try and take some comfort from the fact that Hopefully that means my team has been right so far, even if the calls haven't been. But for me this week, my 3 top scorers were Sizzling Salah with 13 points, 6 points Sanchez, and we're having a laugh with Rafinha and his 3 points. Wow, really? Top scorers? Let's look around. Can anybody see any? Because there weren't many in Game Week 7. Here's hoping that Game Week 8 is much better to us. And with that in mind, let's move on to Game Week 8, and this is how I'm currently lining up. You know what's difficult about this is that just looking at this team, I really don't dislike it. Dig a little deeper though, and we have a few issues. Jota could become subject to rotation now with Firmino back and him not doing so well last game week. Greenwood seems to have dropped off since Ronaldo has arrived, so that's not exactly great either. Rafinha could miss out on Game Week 8 due to international duty and potentially not being able to get back in time, and potentially all of that madness around that. Benny has been iffy at best for a couple of weeks now. Trent, Lukaku and Rudiger could all well miss out in Game Week 8 because of injury, so it's a little more complicated than it first looks. Now, I've really struggled in the past few weeks, as you guys know, on if to wildcard and use the wildcard a bit more attackingly. Honestly, I've had a play and I like a few drafts, but that's a bit of a worry all in itself. They aren't very similar drafts. So what's to say I go with one of them and the other one turns out to be better? So at the moment, I'm leaning on taking a small hit ahead of Game Week 8. And it would be to get Cancelo or Diaz for sure and to sell Jota or Greenwood to Mbeumo or Townsend or maybe even Decore, and that would look a little something like this. This mainly gives me some more time to really see if this team has indeed run its course and it definitely needs a wildcard. And secondly, to see if who to get on my wildcard becomes any clearer, because at the moment, as you guys will know, it all looks very much like it's pointing towards a couple of more players. But every single week, it feels like there's a new band of players we should be getting on. So I would like that to be a little bit clearer if possible before wildcarding. As before, I am definitely not against wildcarding. If these international break injuries turn out to be players definitely missing in Game Week 8 with these particular injuries and they are just not going to be able to make it back, then I will seriously consider hitting the wildcard button last minute. The major problem with me wildcarding right now is that a fair few of these players I'd actually really want to keep long term. So it's actually a bit of a major headache, because would I really want to sell Lukaku, for instance, on a wildcard for maybe a week, 2 weeks, and then have him come back? That would be a horrible situation to be in. At the moment, I think I'm going to try and hold strong. As with my 2 transfers planned for the -4, I would say I'm quite close to a fair few of the wildcard teams, maybe barring, say, a Wolves forward, maybe Son or Vardy in my team. Something I can try and work towards in the coming weeks. If, and that's a big if, the likes of Trent and Rudiger and Lukaku are only minor injuries and that Rafinha is going to be back in, say, a week or 2. I think I'll just try and limp through the best I can. If I hear news that these injuries are going to be far more long term, then of course, you know, the wildcard is there to fall back on, and whilst I will have missed out on a few price rises, I'd rather have the information right now and know whether or not to wildcard based on that information than having a few more pennies in the bank. Now, I would like to stress at this point that if I manage to get through Game Week 8 without pressing the wildcard button, between you guys getting this video, I'm recording this early on in the week instead of doing my live stream. So if nothing happens between now and the Game Week 8 deadline and we hear that Lukaku is back, for instance, and Trent is back, for instance, and maybe Rudiger, or, you know, 2 out of the 3 of those being back and okay, and me just maybe having to play in Mbeumo or Semedo ahead of some of the others there that are injured, then fine. But I'm just putting it out there that another big red arrow off the back of Game Week 8 without playing my wildcard I could see me definitely reacting then to Game Week 8 and hitting the wildcard button for Game Week 9, because that'll then be a couple of game weeks in a row where I will have lost major rank. And at that point, it's time to look at your team and realise that things need to be changed up. Now, if I've only lost a little bit, if it's only a small red arrow, then okay, fair enough. But if it turns out to be quite a large one like it was last game week, then I think you do then seriously need to look at the team and think, okay, this now isn't keeping up with everyone else, so I need to change it up a bit. Captaincy for the moment is on Salah. It's not ideal that he has an early fixture, but the guy just looks like different gravy this season. Brentford looked tough to break down again last game week, so it kind of puts me off Lukaku, especially now with his potential injury. So yeah, it's on Salah at the moment. Has been since I set my bus team at the beginning of international break, and I can't see that really changing now. And lastly, moving on to my trending transfers this week. Using Fantasy Football Fixed data, I'll delve into the trending transfers ahead of next game week so you can see who's likely to rise and drop in price, as well as gauging the bandwagons at the time of recording this. So let's take a look at the players in and out ahead of Game Week 8. Of the goalkeepers, Ramsdale is the trendiest goalkeeper in ahead of Game Week 8 with 86 plus 1,000 purchases. Foster is the next trendiest with 43 plus 1,000 buys. Schmeichel is the most transferred out goalkeeper with over 53,000 sales. The next highest out this week is Sanchez with 37 plus 1,000 managers getting rid of the Brighton man. Of the defenders, Trent is leading the way out for sales this week because of injury, with over 162,000 managers jumping off of the Liverpool man. Alonso is the second most transferred out with 111 plus 1,000 sales. Cancelo is the trendiest defender in ahead of Game Week 8 with 249,000 plus purchases. Azpilicueta is the second highest defender after his brace of assists against Southampton with over 99,000 purchases. In midfield, Townsend is the trendiest midfielder in with over 273 plus 1,000 purchases for the Everton man. Salah is the next trendiest in this game week with 169,000 buys. To be honest, I didn't think that many people didn't own him, so I'm a bit shocked on that number, but hey ho, I guess that means all of us own him. Pogba is the most switched out midfielder this week with over 144 plus 1,000 sales. Greenwood is the second trendiest midfielder out with 137 plus 1,000 FPL managers moving on the United midfielder. Up front, surprisingly, Ronaldo is the trendiest forward out so far this week with 221 plus 1,000 managers moving on the United forward. Lukaku is the second most transferred out forward, probably owing to his yellow flag, with over 105,000 sales. Hwang is the trendiest forward in this week with over 186 buys already. And weirdly enough, Lukaku is also the second trendiest forward bought ahead of Game Week 8, owing to his good fixtures, with over 123,000 purchases. Just a little reminder though that there will be a lot of wildcards in play during this international break, so that will skew a lot of the transfer data when it comes to prices and them rising and dropping. And that's it you guys, thanks for watching. Please check out the sponsors of my video, fantasyfootballfix.com, and yet again, if you'd like to help me reach 7k, please do like, share and hit that notification bell and subscribe for more FPL videos. Until next time, Nymfria out.